Alrighty, and welcome back into the Cobelli Center. We're at the end of this one. The Stars fall 6-3 to the Youngstown Phantoms. I'm joined now by head coach of the Stars, Cody Chupp, for Work Coach's comments brought to you by Southside Auto Tech. And Coach, it seemed like through two periods, you guys were of course right in it. 3-3 score going into the third there, and obviously it was a game that got pretty chippy as the game moved on, and Youngstown pulls away in the third. But what did you see from your vantage point on the bench there, and through a lot of calls tonight that ultimately played a role, whether we like it or not?
Tonight, our how or our process was much better over the course of 60 minutes, and what I saw was a group that was committed to playing hard and doing things right. Now, were we flawless? Definitely not. Did we have breakdowns? Absolutely. But the commitment level for a full 60 minutes of doing things right and staying on pressure and playing hard and developing culturally the stuff that we talk about. And at the end, I'm proud of Sammy. I'm proud of Jordy. I'm proud of those guys sticking up for each other, sticking up for themselves, and ultimately that's the right culture. And two situations where those two guys definitely did the right thing in my book, and I'm happy about that. So the result isn't what we wanted. The process was better tonight than it was last night. So it's a step in the right direction culturally.
And one of your leaders on this team is Tristan Ashbrook. He goes out and puts a couple of goals home tonight. It again seemed like that line was generating a fair amount of chances, a couple that fell just a little short or were stopped on a good save. But especially with Tristan, I know we've talked about him before as a guy who's been a guy that's had to deal with some adversity this year, and this has really seemed to have in the second half taken a major role on this team. What have you liked about him in the last couple of games, especially this weekend, that have allowed him to contribute on the score sheet as well as just provide some good shifts?
His skating is the biggest thing. When he's skating and when he's playing a 200-foot game of urgency and a bit of physicality, that's when he's at his best. And TA and I have talked a lot about his game after coming back from the injury, and the biggest thing for me is he has to take care of his own end and do things right there, and then he gets rewarded. And it's been no different for him throughout his career, and his buy-in level right now is great, and he is playing a 200-foot game. He's killing penalties for us. He's playing on the power play, so his game has taken that next step because of his willingness to play that 200-foot game with urgency and keep his feet moving. For him, his feet have to be moving all the time while he's out there, and when his game gets a little bit stale, it's trying to be something that he's not. And he's a 200-foot player that does well in his own zone, can play in transition, and then ultimately gets rewarded with those offensive chances, and that's where those chances have come from. His ability to defend, his ability to win faceoffs, and then find that nice little soft area in the offensive zone, and then his release is great, something he works a ton on, and he's been rewarded as of late, which is obviously a good thing for us and him.
You guys spent the last 2 weeks on the road. You get to come home. It's an earlier game than usual, Thursday Valentine's game against Sioux City, and then you follow that up with two more road games in Fargo. Obviously your message, I'm sure, tonight was touching on what you just said in terms of the cultures and the process is getting better, but what do you look for from your guys, kind of, again, getting that kind of quick turnaround, but also getting a home game and trying to reset a little bit here next week?
I look for us to take another step culturally, and we've talked a lot about the process, and the how is what's most important, and obviously the results matter to us, and we want to win, and we want to win now. But culture is so important through the course of the season, and having the ability or the chance to put the right culture in place with a group of guys that the majority of them will be back here or have the opportunity to be back here next year. That's important, because as you go through a season, there's the ebbs and flows of a season and weekends, and throughout the course of a game even. The team with the right culture is the team that's always dangerous, that always believes in themselves, that always has each other's back. And that's, to me, what's most important, that we continue to develop that in this group going forward. So going into next week, our schedule doesn't get any easier. and it never will. But we have to be internally focused and make sure that we're taking care of our business and that we're continuing to take steps in the right direction as an entire group.
All right, Coach, as always, we appreciate the time, and we'll talk to you next week.